How would you like to improve your health and keep your family safe? You're listening to the Healthy Home Hacks podcast, where we firmly believe enjoying optimal health shouldn't be a luxury. Healthy Home Authorities and husband and wife team Ron and Lisa will help you create a home environment that will level up your health. It's time to hear from the experts. Listen in on honest conversations and gain the best tips and advice. If you're ready to dive in and improve your well-being and increase your energy, you're in the right place. All right, here are your hosts, bowel biologists, authors, media darlings, vicarious vegans, and avocado aficionados, Ron and Lisa Barris.
Welcome back to the Healthy Home Hacks Show. I'm Ron.
And I'm Lisa. Ron, are you as overwhelmed as I am by all the contradicting health information out there on social media and on the internet? It changes by the minute.
Yes, Lisa, oh my gosh, yes. We're bombarded with a confusing mix of messages about health, diet and exercise trends, wellness fads, and more. What's really right? Well, the truth is, real wellness doesn't come from food, programs, or pills. It begins with...
You're gonna leave our listeners hanging right there?
Well, how is that for a cliffhanger? If you want to know the answer, stay with us, friends, because our special guest today is going to reveal what that is, as well as dive into the fluoride controversy and brain health, and what you need to know when it comes to oral health.
Grab a notebook, folks, and let's get started. Dr. Michelle Jorgensen is an author, speaker, teacher, biologic and holistic dentist, and health and wellness provider. And she's also the author of Living Well with Dr. Michelle, a comprehensive handbook for optimal health and unlimited energy. After practicing traditional dentistry for 10 years, Michelle became very sick. Through her own path to return to health, she discovered she had mercury poisoning from drilling out mercury fillings for her patients. Yikes.
Isn't it crazy? This path led her to discover ways to improve her family's and her own health in all facets of life. She found answers in the kitchen, in the garden, and at home. And she has found what it takes to live well in today's world. And Dr. Michelle, she wants to share those ways to live well with you. So without further ado, welcome to the show, Dr. Michelle. Yes.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. What an introduction. I love it.
Ron's never mellow when it comes to your text.
Well, we had to go big for you, Dr. Michelle.
We had to go bigger.
I appreciate it.
Well, welcome to the show. We are thrilled to have you with us today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to talk.
Yes.
So, right to it. Most people feel exhausted and run down even when they try to be healthy. Why is this happening? And what's the real solution?
One of the best analogies I've ever come up with that I absolutely love is the concept of when you cut your finger. So let's say you're opening a box today and you get a paper cut. You cut your finger. Okay. It hurts, right? It hurts. It's sore. You put a Band-Aid on it. Why? Because the Band-Aid protects it, keeps it from getting dirty, keeps the two sides together. But does the Band-Aid do the healing?
No.
Oh, my goodness. Well, doesn't it assist the healing? Isn't it keeping the wound together?
Sure. But does it do the healing?
No, your body.
Okay, it does not. You
Ron,
got the trick right.
flunking.
Right? The Band-Aid doesn't
Right.
heal your finger. What actually does the healing?
Your body.
Your body, your cells.
system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, your immune system steps in first and it says, guys, guess what? There's trouble brewing over here. We got a big old cut. We need to fix this up. So the cleanup crew comes in first, right? And cleans up everything. That's why it gets a little swollen, a little red. Sometimes you feel that pulsing. This is all of those warriors coming and doing the job. And then they say, all right, guys, we got the area clean. Now the construction crew, it's time for you to come in. So then those skin cells come and they start stitching themselves together so tightly that cut doesn't separate again. And two amazing things. First of all, it happens quickly, right? That cut's gone within 10 days. You're just like, I didn't even think about it again after a day or two. And number two, it did all that work without you even telling it what to do. Every single one of those things happened without you directing that action.
Right.
So your body and cells know what to do to stay well. They know what to do to give you the energy you need to live the life you want. They know how to do it. So we are asking the wrong questions today because we're asking what kind of medicine should we take? What supplement should we take? What diet program should we eat? What exercise program should we follow? Those are the questions we're asking. And that is what leads us to this overwhelm that you talked about.
Yeah.
What in the world do I do?
Right.
That's the wrong question because all of those things are nothing more than Band-Aids. They're there to support your body in doing the job it already knows how to do.
Yeah.
Real question we should be asking is, what do my cells need to do the job that they know how to do?
So you're saying I asked the wrong question. Was that the wrong question to ask, or how did that?
Well,
I'm kidding.
it's the question we know to ask.
Right.
Because we don't know to say, my body already has this. It's already got it all going on. What does it need to do the job? So that's where I took the deep dive and said, okay, what does every cell require to be well?
So supplementing is good if you're
absolutely because it's the support. So every cell needs supplies. Supplies are going to come from where? From food, from supplements, from water, from air. Every cell needs those things. Every cell needs support. It needs its garbage dumped every once in a while. It needs help with that. It needs security. Like we can't just have a bombardment of viruses or bacteria and expect to be well. And it needs signals. The cells need to be able to talk to one another. And that's where a lot of the toxin talk that you come in comes from, because cells can't talk to one another when they're bogged down with a whole bunch of garbage.
Yeah.
They need all of those things, but the cells are the ones that are going to do the work.
Right.
So the starting question is, what cells need help first? And then what do they need? So that's what I've done in my book is I actually went to all sorts of different traditional medical methodologies, everything from Chinese traditional medicine to Ayurveda in India, Korean Satsang medicine, all of these. And I said, they've been keeping people well for centuries.
Right.
Yep. What did they know? And how can we consolidate this and simplify it so that we can use it today as well? And I've created a symptoms assessment. So you plug your symptoms in. And then based on the results of the assessment, it tells you which cells need help.
Ooh, where do we get that assessment? In your book?
Yeah, you get it in the book, absolutely. But you can also get it online at livingwellbook.com.
Oh,
so yes, because this is the
livingwellbook.com.
place to go, because what it tells you is where to start. And that's often where the overwhelm comes in. Is we hear all of these one size fits all supplements, and diet programs and everything, and none of them are bad. Not be what your cells need right now. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes you're speaking my language and Ron's language. And
so where do you start? And this gives you that starting point to say what cells need help first. And then you go from there and I teach you, what do you give those cells? So
and at different times of the year, you probably need different things, right? And different,
all of the above
ages, different age periods of your life. And
and I love that you said that, because actually the way I've set this up, every single traditional medical methodology used the seasons of the earth and the elements of the earth to classify bodies, to classify disease. They're all talking about springs and summer and fire and water. So that's the way I use this classification system as well. And every body cycles. So interestingly enough, I'm patient zero for all of this, right? You try everything first on yourself. When I first took the assessment, I was a spring. I came out as a spring, and the spring means your liver and gallbladder need help first.
Oh, okay.
I started detoxing. I started doing all of those things to support my body. Well, I'm no longer in a spring. I'm actually in a winter right now, because I keep questing about every 2 months or so. I'm like,
are you saying that you're done? That because is winter the last stage?
Winter's the last stage, but then you get back to spring.
Oh,
you're never done, Ron. It's a life
never done. Your body always needs your help in keeping itself well. But the key is this gives you the power to do it at home on your own. You don't have to rely on a doctor or whatever else to do it.
Yes, right. I just read the health report, the White House health report that just came out that said that kids today are the sickest they've ever been. The chronic illness with kids today is just skyrocketing from environmental toxins, food, screen time, medication, all of this. And so like what you're saying is so, so important, listeners. If you are dealing with health issues or have kids that are like, this is so important. Instead of going to get your Band-Aid, AKA pill, which everyone's used to, and you might feel better for a day or two or maybe a week, but then, right, it comes back, or you're in a lifelong of taking that. You're in a lifelong cycle. So it's just a an infinite loop that you can't get out of. Right.
So you're not really addressing what the cells really need.
Right.
Oftentimes covering up what they need.
Yeah.
Covering up the symptom, which I liken to, it's like the warning light on your dashboard of your car. You can put duct tape over it.
Right.
You don't see the warning light anymore.
Yeah, right.
But the problem
That's
didn't
a good
go
analogy.
away.
Yeah, that's a great
it's
analogy.
just like, you take ibuprofen for a headache. Well, you feel better, but the reason that you got a headache was never addressed. So the body's not well. The cells aren't well.
Yeah.
You just covered over the symptom. Symptoms are not the thing to treat. And that's honestly what modern medicine has really led us to believe is the symptoms are there. That's the problem. We have to take care of the symptom, but symptoms are actually the sign. It's the only way our cells have to communicate with us.
Right.
That's how our cells tell us what's wrong.
Yeah.
We need to be able to interpret our cells' signs. We need to know what that means and what to do about it.
Right,
And that's really what this is all about is just saying, okay, I have the headache. What does that mean?
What is it caused by? We have so many toxins in our world today. We are bombarded. And I agree with you that you can't coast through life like just expecting that you're going to be okay without being proactive anymore. It's just very hard to avoid all of these toxins. Then we have the Wi-Fi and electromagnetic radiation and all of that just on top of it. So, but I want to backtrack a little and have you share with our listeners your personal journey of your mercury toxicity and the hidden dangers in dentistry.
Yep. So this is an interesting thing because the book isn't all about dentistry, but there's so many components that relate to dentistry, and I'll explain why in a bit. So yeah, I'm a general dentist and I was working with my father. He's a dentist as well. I was doing a lot of cosmetic dentistry because I'm really artsy. I like creating things and it was awesome. Like I was loving my career. I thought I would do this forever. And then I started to get really sick. And when you get sick, you just start shotgunning everything, right? You go to every doctor you can think of, every test you can think of, and I wasn't getting answers anywhere. My symptoms were major gut issues. I almost couldn't even drink water sometimes without pain. So it was really bad. I lost a ton of weight. It was really, I was very, very ill. My brain, I've always had a good memory and I couldn't even complete sentences or remember a patient's name from room to room anymore. I mean, it was noticeably different. And the third one that was really the icing on the cake was I had such bad painful numbness in my hands. I couldn't sleep at night. I couldn't blow dry my hair. I couldn't brush my teeth. And I didn't have the dexterity to hold my dental instruments anymore.
Wow.
So at this point, I actually put my practice for sale because nobody could give me answers. And I was in my mid 30s. I had 4 young kids. My husband worked for the practice. This was our entire livelihood.
Wow.
Wow.
Going up in smoke right now. So I was just trying to figure out what was I going to do. And I reached out to a dentist who had a nutritionist in this practice because I thought, well, I've learned a lot about nutrition trying to fix my gut. Maybe I can just talk to people about that. And he said, your symptoms sound so much like mine. Have you looked into mercury poisoning as a problem? And I said, well, I don't have any mercury fillings because I learned like first year of dental school that silver fillings are 50% mercury. People don't know that, but it is true.
50%? Really? That is, I didn't know it was that high. Wow.
I didn't need that.
Still today, every filling that's placed in the mouth today that's silver is 50% mercury. So I learned that, but I said, well, I don't have any fillings. And, I learned that they're perfectly safe. And he said, well, first of all, it's not the fillings you have. It's the ones you've been drilling out as a cosmetic dentist because they don't like the black filling look. So I'd been drilling a lot of them out and breathing it in with no protection. And isn't it worth just going to get tested? I said, you're right. It is. I've done everything else. So I might as well do this. I tested and that's what it was. Mercury toxicity.
Wow.
Do you remember the level?
I don't even remember. It was 15 years ago. Thank goodness. It was at the top of the top. Like you couldn't go higher than where
right. That's what I was going to
Wow.
like that. So because when I first did my removal, I went to a dentist that didn't use a dam. Then of course I realized that was a boo-boo and Ron got his removed. I'm like, you've got to go to a dentist that has a dam. And now they all use the dams, right? The good holistic. No,
good holistic dentist. Yes. Not everybody, not every dentist, but yeah. And that's really where I had to go next. Once I found out this answer is the doctor said, okay, we finally got it. We finally figured out what's wrong. You can't keep putting it in and take it out at the same time. Like that doesn't work. You can't detoxing and you can't put it in as fast as you take it out. And so they said, you got to figure out a way to do this or you've got to give it your job. So I found that there was an organization that had protocol for this. And that's what you're talking about, using a dental dam, we have a giant vacuum that goes at the base of the chin. The doctor wears this huge mercury filtration mask. I mean, lots of steps to keep the patient and the practitioner both safe, and the dental assistant and reception.
Yeah, the whole office,
The
right?
HVAC system,
Wow.
you know.
Yeah,
And
right.
so we started doing all of this, and the patients obviously noticed something was different. She
Right.
just walks into a hazmat
Yeah,
suit.
exactly. Right.
It's like,
Hazard
okay,
signs.
well, what's going on here? So they started asking questions, and I would explain this is for me, but it's also good for you. And they were all very happy about that and started telling friends and family and doctors about it. And people started saying, well, what else do you know about fluoride? What's really the truth there? And what do you know about
Right.
root canals? I've heard issues here. And I didn't know anything about anything. Like,
Okay.
I knew nothing about any of these things. And I had to just start taking major deep dives, finding obscure education programs all over the country and educating myself, because these are sacred cows inside of dentistry. These are
Yeah.
things you don't touch. These are things you
Right.
don't
Right.
dispute.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I personally couldn't do that anymore, because I said, well, if this made me sick and I knew nothing about it, and I am inside of the profession and the profession's still telling me they're perfectly safe,
Right.
what else?
Well, isn't it interesting? Like, because it's a heavy metal, it's a toxic metal. And they're like, don't play with the thermometer. If you break it, don't touch the mercury. Every kid knows that. But then they're like, oh, yeah, we'll put it in your mouth, though.
Yeah,
It's
exactly
all
right.
Fine. Right? That's crazy. So, and would you say, like, they wear down, right, over time? So, not just the vapors of removing, but how much mercury are you getting when you have mercury fillings? Like,
It's released from the fillings 24/7.
oh, wow.
When I was in school, I was told if I told anybody that mercury could affect their health, I would lose my license.
Oh my
No,
That's
goodness.
another reason I was very reluctant to go down this road at all. Thankfully, research is now backing what I'm telling you. I can tell you
Yeah.
now. It is
Yeah.
released from those fillings 24/7, and it is released more when there's stimulation. So when you're chewing or when you have hot and cold cycling. So you
Oh
drink a
wow.
cold drink of water and then you eat a bite of hot soup. It's going to even release more mercury. So it is a 24/7 release of that mercury into the system when you have fillings.
Oh, which is like everyone.
A lot of people. A lot of
Everyone
Absolutely.
has mercury fillings, is eating and
Yeah, like
chewing
hot,
and
hot
doing all of
coffee,
that.
soup for lunch, and then like a nice
Yeah.
cold ice cream at night. Or
Like a daily thing.
Yeah, right. Right, not to digress. How long did it take you to get back to your practice? Were you gone for like 2-3 months as you recovered?
I just kept going.
You
Yeah,
did.
Okay,
Choice.
okay.
Kept
I didn't have
working
a
through it.
Okay.
choice.
Yeah.
Right.
So, but it took me about 8 years to feel like I had my brain back. You know,
Oh wow.
I just kept working because you just have to.
After, yeah, you had your family. So what did you do for the detox? Was it herbs or?
So there's a couple of interesting things. And because you talk so much about toxins and things, these are interesting pieces for you to know too, for people who are listening to this to know. There are different genetic variants that make bodies more or less capable of detoxing things. And
The gene,
so
right?
gene MTHFR is a real common one that makes it very difficult to detox. I just literally got another genetic test yesterday back, and it's like, yep. No detox
I think I
potential
have
here.
that. I need to take it. I'm sure I
Yes. And actually, there's some signs people can look for that are very interesting to know if you have MTHFR. Number one is if you have a tongue tie or a lip tie. Yours is a little tied. Yep. If you have a narrow mouth, that's often MTHFR because it's a midline deficiency. Things will happen on the middle of the face and the middle of the body. So,
Oh, really?
Wow.
if you have any kind of hernia, that's often a good sign that you've got MTHFR. She's checking out her lips and her tongues now. And then some of the other things to look for is if like medication doesn't affect you really well. So you can take an ibuprofen and it doesn't really do much. Or you go to get anesthetic at the hospital and they got to give you a lot, or a little bit does a lot. Like you stay down for forever, you know?
Yeah. I'm like hyper sensitive to everything.
Yep. So that's you. Yep. Most
That's
likely
me?
you have this
Yeah.
genetic variant. So what it means is
Mhm.
you're not able to detox very fast. Your processes don't work very well. Another piece that's so interesting is research now shows that moms will detox about 80% of the mercury in their system into their first child. So
Oh
I
my
am.
goodness.
I'm a
Oh,
first
wow.
child. And my
I'm
mom
a
had
first
mouth.
child. Oh
Are
my-
you? And did your
Right.
mom have mercury fillings?
She did.
Oh, no. It's all making sense.
Right,
Exactly right.
Right.
So I had to detox incredibly slowly because I think I probably had a mercury burden long before I arrived in dentistry because my mom, because I wasn't detoxing just from environmental stuff, but I'm old. I got all the old kind of vaccines that had all sorts of mercury in them. I'm
Oh,
sure I had all sorts of mercury burden before I even arrived in
right.
dentistry. So then it just pushed me over the edge quite quickly.
Yeah.
So I had to go slowly.
Oh,
with
that's the key.
detox.
If you have the MTHFR, you just need to go, okay, that's me.
I had to go so slowly. I tried to do a whole bunch of heavier, it's called cyto detox, like a bunch of different things. and I got sicker than a dog. I mean, I would take one drop and I would just
That's
be
me.
out. I couldn't eat for weeks. So I had to do slow chlorella, glutathione, lots of cruciferous vegetables. So lots of broccoli and cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. They have a sulfur molecule in them, which binds. So I had to do very, very slow detoxing. Lots of
That's the key.
charcoal to grab it on the way out. I had to make sure that my kidneys were working right because that's where mercury from fillings is detoxed, is actually through the urine.
Oh.
So there's 2 types of mercury, and one goes through the liver and the gut, and the other one goes through the kidneys. Mercury from fillings goes through the kidneys.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, because we just did a massive cleanse. Well, I've been cleansing this whole year. I have not stopped. It started with a simple little 30-day parasite cleanse, and now it's gone to full-blown, like, I'm still parasite cleansing because I'm not done. And I'm doing like a microplastic zeolite, and my body reacts really, really, really weird to zeolite, where it gets like shaky. Have you ever heard of that?
Yeah. You're just pretty sensitive.
Just sensitive. Yeah. So did you do IV chelation or did you do more of the greens?
The first thing I was told by the doctor is that you need to do 93 IV treatments. And I said, well, I've got 4 young kids.
93.
Busy practice that's like barely limping along right now. I've got that. I'm like, when would I come?
Right.
Sit here for an hour and a half. So I didn't do it. And I'm so grateful now because research shows that that's actually a much less effective method for this kind of mercury. To do IV EDTA is usually the thing they would put in there. It's actually much less effective. So it's more effective to do chlorella. You can do zeolite, pectosol. Some of these are all kind of grabbers that are going to grab it and help to escort it out of the body. You just got to go slow with mercury.
Yeah, that makes such good information. Oh my gosh, guys. So, and your dentists don't tell you this. So
Absolutely.
Dentists don't know it.
They don't know it. Yeah, you're not learning that.
We're going to pivot from mercury to fluoride. So, Dr. Michelle, can you explain the fluoride controversy and how it affects brain health? Because, like, you're sharp as a tack and we want to be like you.
That's mercury free.
Mercury free now. Yes. So, going from mercury, oh my gosh, what is this? Then I started looking into some of these other things. And what I found is that 60 to 80% of chronic health problems are related or caused by mouth, by issues in the
interesting.
mouth. And fluoride is one of those because fluoride is an interesting thing. Really, the story and the research or the history behind fluoride is back in the 1940s, they saw that there were communities that were drinking well water and they had better teeth. They had less tooth decay. So they said, well, what's in this water? And they found it was high levels of fluoride. So they said, okay, this is awesome. We've just now figured out the cure-all for tooth decay. Let's just put fluoride in everything and it's going to make teeth stronger and it's going to make them more resistant to decay. Well, it's true. The fluoride does make teeth more resistant to decay. But here's the problem. It doesn't just do that.
Yeah.
Every single thing that we put in our body acts on every cell. We call them side effects, but we don't realize that a side effect is simply something acting on a cell we didn't intend it to act on. And everything we put in our body does that. It acts on the ones we want and the ones we didn't want. So fluoride does a lot of other things. So what does it do? Well, fluoride is very similar to iodine. If you remember back to your junior high chemistry class on the periodic table, there's something called the halide section. It has chlorine, bromine, iodine, fluoride. They're all there next to
Ron was snoozing.
You're snoozing.
I was going to say, I don't remember that part. Thanks for repeating it.
It's okay. It's all good. But they're cousins. So they have shared similarities. So fluoride will interfere with anything that iodine is supposed to act on. Well, iodine is the key for every cell that secretes something. So that's the stomach, secretes stomach acid. That's all of the adrenal glands for all the hormones. Particularly, it's the thyroid. Iodine activates thyroid hormone. So now we're using all this fluoride in toothpaste and mouthwashes and the water. We're drowning everybody in fluoride. And what it's doing is it's mimicking iodine and making it show up that you have enough thyroid hormone. You get a test taken and it says, oh, you're just fine. But the hormone is activated by fluoride, not iodine. So you feel cruddy. You have no energy. You can't get out of bed. And the doctor says, you're just fine. Your levels are fine. Your thyroid's just fine. But it's because the fluoride took the place of the iodine. So Interestingly enough, in the 70s, they used to use fluoride as a treatment for hyperthyroidism. They know that it decreases thyroid function, but yet it's in all of our water.
Wow.
All of our tooth care products, it's everywhere. What?
Right.
Do you know anybody who has thyroid issues or energy, doesn't have the energy that they want? Only like everyone.
So many women
Right,
have
for
thyroid
sure.
issues.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's problem number one. Problem number two is it's actually depositing in brains. And this was a brand new research study that came out literally linking direct. If the mom had these levels of fluoride, the baby will have this level of decrease in IQ. I mean, it is like one for one.
Whoa.
You take fluoride, you decrease your IQ in your baby. It is straight across the board. So number two problem. Number three problem is it affects bones because the same mineral that fluoride changes in the tooth structure to make it harder actually affects in the bones. It's the same mineral. It's called hydroxyapatite. So fluoride also changes the density or the structure of bones, leaving them more brittle. So it's affecting bone density, it's affecting IQ level and brain function in children and adults, and it's affecting thyroid, basically taking down all of our energy levels.
Yeah.
So, okay, the fluoride didn't just fix the teeth, it did all these other things. So here's my contention. The goal was to eradicate tooth decay, right? Did it do it? Has anyone had a cavity since 1940?
No, by the way, like I love your friendly origin story of fluoride because I heard more sinister ones, like with the concentration camps of Nazi Germany using them for mind
You know what?
control.
I don't go there. I assume positive intent. I assume positive intent. There was a good reason it started.
I've never heard the positive origin story, so that's excellent.
Yeah,
so
I've never heard that either. I only
But
heard
that was really good.
Yeah.
But did it work?
No.
Of course, there have been cavities since 1940.
Right.
So it didn't work. It didn't eradicate tooth decay. At what cost?
Lots of
whole bunch of cost.
Yeah.
So was it worth the trade-off? No. And here's the
for the fertilizer industry, it was because they sold the byproduct,
because they had a byproduct.
Yeah,
yes,
right,
perhaps.
for sure.
Yes, but it wasn't worth the trade-off for us as a populace in general. And, one of the things that it's interesting because Utah, where I live, was the first state to actually ban fluoride in water, which I was so proud of them because they got a huge pushback.
Shut up.
I didn't 2 months ago. Yeah, just like March, barely. But interestingly enough, it's been really interesting to sit back and watch what's happened because they're now, well, first of all, the ADA is freaking out. American Dental Association's freaking out saying, you are making the biggest mistake you could ever make, Utah. You're idiots, and I'm going, no, you guys are really smart. But the people who put it in the water are reacting. They're complaining because they said, you know what? We just changed our entire system. We just paid millions of dollars to dump all this into the water. We bought all these hazmat suits. They had to wear they have to wear a hazmat suit to go and add it to the water because it's highly toxic.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Wow.
And so they're saying, well, now we got to change the whole system, which I'm thinking, but you don't have to wear the hazmat suit anymore. Right. So we are adding to this. We are adding this to the water.
Yeah. And there's other states following suit, right? I think Florida.
Yep. So now we have Utah and Florida. There's a couple of others that are coming on board, thankfully. Yeah. But basically, fluoride is a toxin that should not be given to us all just willy-nilly. Do you know what I mean? There's no reason why we should be dumping it into the water and giving it to everybody, primarily because maybe I don't need it. Maybe I'm not getting cavities, and maybe you already are getting it from your toothpaste.
Yeah. And can you share on the children's, a lot of people don't know this, the children's toothpaste, what is that warning and why should parents be on the lookout?
There's a huge warning on it. It says basically if your child consumes more than a pea-sized amount of this toothpaste, this could be toxic. So how many kids take this sugary, artificial flavor, artificial colored toothpaste and squirt it into their mouth?
Yeah. Swallow it, right? If they swallow it.
If they swallow it. Yep. And they do it.
Call poison control, right?
So here's the amazing news. Cavities are not a deficiency of fluoride. They're not a deficiency of fluoride because fluoride wasn't there to begin with.
Right.
Cavities are a deficiency of minerals. When acid is on the tooth, either because of sugar, bugs eat sugar. Our mom told us this. You can't eat sugar, you're going to get cavities, right? Bugs eat sugar and they excrete acid, which dissolves the minerals on your tooth. Or here's another one too. If your body needs minerals elsewhere. So if you're a growing teenager, if you are a pregnant mama or a nursing mama, and there is a huge demand for those minerals elsewhere, the body will actually pull it from your teeth to take care of your essential functions like brain and heart. So
robbing from Peter to pay Paul.
Exactly right. Because your brain and heart you can't live without, but you can actually live without your teeth. So the body pulls minerals from the teeth to take care of the essential functions. So you don't need fluoride to prevent tooth decay, you need minerals.
Minerals.
Now, Dr. Michelle, we're going to have listeners saying like, well, how do I protect my teeth if fluoride is removed from the water?
Exactly.
And how do I get these minerals? How can they do it?
So the mineral complex that teeth are made of, it's called hydroxyapatite. Okay. And this is a word you're probably hearing. It's flying around social media because of course, everybody has to debate everything. But hydroxyapatite is literally the mineral your teeth are made of. So you want a hydroxyapatite tooth care product. So I have a powder, I had mouthwash. You've probably been seeing this all over,
All over. Yeah.
Hydroxyapatite, that's the mineral your teeth are made of. So if acid gets on your tooth and it pulls minerals out, you're going to put minerals back. So that's number one. That's minerals from the outside. I also want minerals from the inside. Sometimes that's fixing gut function so that you can absorb, but I supplement. We supplement. I have a special product called Tooth Bone Formula and vitamin D3 K2, which actually put minerals into the cells where it belongs. You can get these elsewhere as well, but it's basically minerals on the outside with hydroxyapatite, minerals on the inside with vitamin D3 K2, and a good mineral formula. And you don't get a cavity. I have never had a cavity.
In your life?
Oh, wow.
Never had a cavity.
You're in the
You're
right field.
born to be a dentist.
Exactly. And my patients, I tell them all the time, I say, you should never have to get another cavity. And usually they start to cry, and I'm like, but it's really true. This isn't that complicated.
Right. Oh, it's so clear how you explain it. And then you realize like just how confusing they made it for people.
Well, Dr. Michelle, I want to share a quick little story when I was 9 years old and how I thought I was going to battle a sore throat. Is that helpful?
You were what?
Here's the deal. So when I was 9 years old, I lived in the Northeast, it was colder, and you'd always get cold. And so I had this bright idea that I was just going to go to bed every night with a cough drop in my mouth. I let it just rest there in the back of my throat. And it was beautiful because I started off each day with a clear throat and I was ready to go, right? But it wasn't so great when I went to my dentist.
Yep.
I went from having like no cavities to all of a sudden they reported to my mom, you have 9 cavities.
Cherry lap nurse. I know what I was going to say. We had interviewed a doctor in LA and Dr. Kalsi, I think is his name. And Ren and I are vegan. And he's like, oh, you're vegan. You make sure you're taking K2. And I was like, what is K2? And how come I've never heard of this? And it's really from animal products. It's very hard to get if you're vegan, vegetarian. So now we are taking it. And you just mentioned that. And so that's an interesting vitamin that we don't hear much about.
Yeah, it's interesting because 1930s, there was a doctor named Dr. Weston Price. A lot of people in the nutritional world have heard of Dr. Weston Price. Not a lot of people know he was a dentist. And actually, his intent was to go and he traveled around the world studying indigenous societies and saying, what are they eating and what does their tooth and overall health look like? And what he figured out is the people that had better health, tooth health, mouth health, big, wide smiles. They had plenty of room in their mouths for all of their teeth. They had open noses, so they were able to breathe through their nose easily. This is an epidemic today. People can't breathe because our mouths are too squished and we need braces and we can't put our wisdom teeth. It's all nutrition based.
Really?
We found that the people who had mouths that were big enough, noses that were big enough, and had good, healthy teeth, they were eating 5 times the amount of water-soluble vitamins. So that's vitamin C, vitamin Bs, and 10 times the amount of fat-soluble vitamins, which is vitamins A, D3, K2. He didn't know what to call it, and vitamin E is the 4th, but he didn't know there was no name for vitamin K2 at the time. He called it Activator X. So he identified this thing and he identified which food sources it was found in, but it was an unknown entity, but it's since been named vitamin K2. So it's a different vitamin entirely than vitamin K1, which bothers me because vitamin K1 is found in greens. It's related to clotting, blood clotting. So people will be like, oh, I can't take vitamin K2 because I have blood clotting issues. I'm like, it's not
come up with another letter in the alphabet.
Exactly. Like there's plenty of other letters that no vitamin is attached to. Call it vitamin N, I don't care, but something different. So yes, it actually is really hard to get in a vegan diet because it's largely found, but tooth health is hugely related to vitamin D3 and K2. If you eat a vegan diet, you're going to need to supplement those two.
Those two.
A lot naturally in the foods you're eating.
And vitamin A, where do we get that? Is that Brussels sprout?
Vitamin A seeds, largely seed, vitamin A and E. So you're probably getting plenty of both of those. Vitamin A comes from carrots. There's some other sources. So you're probably getting A and E just fine. It's the D3 and K2 that are tricky to get if you're not eating an animal product.
Yeah. And what do you think of mineral water? Is that good for, we drink a lot of sparkling mineral water. Is that good for getting those minerals you're talking about, or is that just scratching the surface?
So it's interesting because the two words sparkling and mineral going together are actually the problem because the sparkling is from carbonic acid. It's carbonated. Carbonic acid is acidic. So that will pull minerals from your teeth. Any carbonated beverage will pull minerals from your teeth because it's carbonic acid. So it's acidic. But then you're adding on the minerals. So thankfully, sparkling mineral water, you're taking and giving at the same time. So that's a good thing. So you've got a lose and a win in the same bottle. So that's good. You do need minerals, but you've got to have those vitamins, because if you just get a whole bunch of minerals, what the minerals do is they can't get absorbed through the gut and put into the cells. So they just circulate and you end up harder on your teeth, gallstones, kidney stones, hardening of the arteries, because the minerals find somewhere to go because they can't actually make it into the cell. So you've got to have the D3, K2 to get them into the cell where you actually want them utilized.
So interesting. Do you have a brand of the hydroxyapatite toothpaste that you recommend?
Yep. Well, I'm going to recommend mine.
Good.
I don't usually do that, but I will do that. Living well with Dr. Michelle, because I was very intentional about what goes in these products. I don't want any crap. I don't want anything. Because a lot of the products, they have things in them to turn them into a paste or to turn them into something. I didn't want that. I just wanted it to be there because there was a reason for it to be there. So anyway, I have a mouthwash. I have a toothpaste. And a toothpaste should be out in about 3 weeks. It's so nice.
Oh, so exciting.
It's called Living Well with Dr. Michelle, the toothpaste.
Living Well with Dr. Michelle is the brand. Yep.
That's perfect.
Yep.
So then you just go to your website and order.
Yes. Okay. And for your 9-year-old problem, we actually have mints that have hydroxyapatite coming out in about So you pop a mint in, and instead of it destroying your teeth, it strengthens your teeth while it's in your mouth.
Oh, that's really good. It's so funny when you recall that story about the mouth and how if you have impacted wisdom teeth, they don't fit your mouth. I remember hearing another story that made me feel better because I had impacted wisdom teeth a long time ago. I was told that's because you are so many multi-generational away from the caveman that you are more sophisticated, and over time,
yeah, that's what they tell people.
We are changing. I was like, wow, I am so advanced. But now I have found out that I'm not so advanced. In fact, it was my mother who had fluoride treatments and something that passed it on to her first son. That's why.
And poor nutrition, and our food just doesn't have the nutrients it used to have in it. Yeah, because I really kind of argue back on that exact statement, because you can go back even 200 years and we're going to find skulls that had every tooth in their mouth, all 32, including all their wisdom teeth, and they were straight. So in 200 years' time, typically genetic changes happen in 5 to 10 generations. Well, that's not 200 years. That's more like 400 years to really see that change. Well, we can go back just 200 years and see that there was plenty of room. So what this means is that our food supply has changed. Yes. That now we eat food, but it doesn't have the nutrients it used to have, because it used to be grown in soil, and that's where minerals come from, is the earth.
Right.
So the soil fed the plant and the plant fed the person. Well, now we have the soil is bare and they fertilize the plant and the plant feeds the person. So there's no mineral transfer from the soil to the plant anymore. Now it's just a plant that's artificially fertilized with 3 minerals, nitrogen, or 3 components, nitrogen, phosphate, and potassium. NKP is what it's called. Those 3 are all the plant gets, and it makes it grow big and grow pretty, but we're missing everything that the soil used to deliver to the plant. I'm a huge gardener, so I do a lot of talk about how does the soil actually feed us. Unfortunately, our food isn't grown in it, so we have to get it in other ways. We have to supplement. We have to intentionally work on finding an organic blueberry that has the anthocyanins that we need, those kinds of things, because it's not getting in our food otherwise.
So if we buy organic, we are getting those minerals?
It helps. They don't use artificial fertilizers, artificial pesticides. It helps. So it's the better version if you can do it.
Right. But you're probably still not getting it all. Yeah.
Probably not getting it all, which is why, unfortunately, we do have to do supplements. But I don't love supplements. Like, I try to just do everything with food, if at all possible. That's my goal.
That's the better way. Yeah. What do you think about fulvic and humic acid as a supplement? Are you familiar with that?
Absolutely. We actually recommend a product called Mother Earth from Mother Earth Labs.
Okay.
That's a really nice humic and fulvic acid product that is great for tooth health as well. It's a liquid. I call it dirt water.
It is dirt water. I have a bottle.
It's dirt water. And it has the minerals from deep in the soil that your body's missing. Another thing is I go out to my garden and I'll grab, in fact, just yesterday, I grabbed, a handful of peas off of the vine and I was just eating them right there. And people look at me and they'll say, aren't you going to wash that first?
I might have said that.
I'm not. You might have said that. Yeah. And I say, no, because guess what? Everything that's on that pea is something that my body needs. And generations past ate them straight from the vine. That's how they eat them, and that's how you get those minerals.
What if there's a tomato worm on it? I'm just kidding.
Yeah. So, my
about
daughter-in-law doesn't necessarily like eating at my house because we'll eat a salad and she'll see a tiny little caterpillar crawling up her lettuce. She's like, oh my gosh, give me
It's just too much. Oh my God. I had that happen at a restaurant once where I went to take a big bite.
You should enjoy it. You should tell the restaurateur, good job. That means it's absolutely organic because that caterpillar would have not have survived if there was a pesticide on there.
Wow.
Okay. That's some good health advice.
Absolutely.
Okay. So going to like lower income and rural families, what would be the impact on them if the fluoride is removed?
Yeah, this is a great question. I feel I've been on a lot of news stations asked this exact question. And the key is hydroxyapatite. There's no reason you can't buy a hydroxyapatite toothpaste instead of a fluoride toothpaste. It's all about the minerals. It's all about the minerals. So will there be an impact? Absolutely. There probably will be an increase in tooth decay in that area. But there will also most likely be a decrease in autism or IQ function issues. There'll be a decrease in thyroid problems.
Right.
Those are costly too.
Yeah.
Those are costly too. So where do you put your effort? So go and maybe it's $2 more for a hydroxyapatite toothpaste than a fluoride toothpaste. But and I know this is a difficult conversation. It's absolutely a difficult conversation, but I don't like the risk of impacting IQ levels in children. I don't like the risk of impacting thyroid health. I think that everybody should have the right to be able to say what they want in their body.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Can you get that hydroxyapatite like at pharmacies, drugstore, or grocery stores?
And
Walmart, everywhere. Okay.
There's going to be products everywhere.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. So what can listeners do right now who are struggling with their energy? What would you suggest?
So energy, first of all, we have to talk about where does it come from? Energy, because often we think energy comes from a can. It's what we drink at 2 p.m. when we get the slump or whatever. But it doesn't. You're like
double macchiato.
Exactly. Or a can or a cup or, it doesn't come from there. It actually comes from your cells. And your cells create something called ATP. What do they need to be able to do that? They need glucose, which this isn't actually a little known fact. The thing that cells use to create energy is actually a carbohydrates. Cells do not make energy from protein. They don't. They can't.
Listen up, keto people.
You do not make energy from protein. Protein builds muscle. Protein builds enzymes. It facilitates all the chemical reactions in our body. Like we absolutely need them. But it is the last of three. There are three sources of energy: carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. It is the last in the line of three. And if you're using proteins for energy, it's muscle wasting. It's taking it from muscles because you're using it for energy instead of muscle sustaining. So energy doesn't come from protein. It comes from carbohydrates. It also can come from some fats, but the body has to work a little harder to utilize this as fats.
Okay.
And it comes from oxygen. So it's the combination between a glucose molecule, a sugar molecule, and oxygen together combined to make ATP. So you've got to have deep breathing.
That really is a thing. Okay, I know. I hear
a lot of times. Yeah. So if your cells don't have oxygen, they will use one glucose molecule and they'll make 2 batteries. If they have oxygen, they'll use glucose molecule and make 24 batteries.
Whoa.
So oxygen is the difference between running out of fuel and having enough to sustain everything. So I do a couple of things. The other thing is electrons. Electrons is literally the circulating energy in your system. So where do electrons come from? Electrolytes. People think of it, they've heard of the word electrolyte, but they don't know that an electrolyte carries electrons, which is energy. Okay. So what I tell people is 2 p.m., you're drinking an electrolyte. It's not because you went and worked out or did anything else or sweated. It's because that is what carries electrons to your body. You're also going to go out and either put your feet on the ground if you can, like literal dirt.
Yeah.
Literal grass if you can, or you're going to get a grounding pad, stick it on your desk and take your shoes off and put your feet on it.
Yeah. I'll put a link. We sleep on one every night.
Yeah. Perfect. That's another source of electrons. So we have to get back to what is literal energy. Like it's kind of this ethereal concept of, I have no energy. No, what you have is your cells don't have enough batteries to do what you want them to do, right?
Yeah.
To get up and go, to get the focus. Like they don't have enough batteries. So what do they need for batteries? They need glucose. They need oxygen. So go and eat an apple. 2 p.m.
Okay.
You're going to need an apple and you're going to drink an electrolyte drink. And you're going
to give us some good electrolyte drinks.
Anything that's clean. I love Just Ingredients products. Hers are awesome.
Just ingredients? Okay.
Just ingredients. Check them out. The reason I love them so much is because all of her flavors are from natural flavors. So if it's a raspberry, it's because it's a ground up, freeze-dried raspberry that made it taste like raspberry.
Oh, wow. Okay.
What
So
about
there's
grapefruit
nothing
juice?
fake.
How about
Yeah,
that?
would it be vitamin C type drinks or no? If we're talking about,
So vitamin C is good, but you want the electrolyte. You want that literal mineral.
where would that be in food though? Like veggies? You said just ingredients. Like what would that be?
Oh, just ingredients is a drink. So it's actually a
Okay.
drink. So you just
Yeah.
dump it into a bottle and shake it up.
Oh, it's like a powder?
Yep, it's powder.
It's a
Powder,
powder.
you're gonna
Oh,
drink it
so you
in-
have
you're
to get like a powdered electrolyte. You can't
Yeah.
just eat a food and get the electrolytes.
You can eat a food too. An apple,
Okay. An apple.
applesauce, a date. Those are the very
sir.
best things for 2 p.m.
Oh,
Eat an apple
okay.
and 2 dates.
Okay.
Wow.
Put your feet
We've
on the
been doing
ground.
so much wrong. Oh my.
You don't need coffee anymore at 2 p.m. because you're going to get
No.
an apple, 2 dates, put your feet on the ground or on your grounding pad, and you're going to have your charge back up again. And take some deep
The
breaths.
breathing.
Get your oxygen in there.
That's a good tip.
Is this all part of your cell well model?
That's all part of the book. Just saying, basically,
Wow.
what do your cells need to recharge and to stay well? Yeah, one of my very first chapters talks about this. Where does energy actually come from? Because like I said, it's kind of this ethereal concept. We just go, I'm just so drained. I'm just like worn out. I have no energy today. I'm so dead. Well,
Yeah.
those are really literal terms if you think about them, because we need to power up. Like we need to recharge, just like we charge our phone. We need to recharge
Right.
our bodies. Where does the
Yeah.
charge come from? From the earth, from food. That's where it comes from oxygen, from sunshine. That's where the charge comes from. We can't
Yeah.
plug our bodies in, but we can.
Yeah. Do you recommend hyperbaric oxygen chambers occasionally? Or do you,
It's fabulous if you have something that needs to be healed. Because
Okay.
here's the thing, when you're going through a healing journey, you actually need more energy to heal than you do to stay well.
yeah.
So if you're going to get better, you need more oxygen, more electrolytes, more
Mhm.
everything in order to get better. But typically when we're not well, we're below level.
Mm-hmm.
We're low energy.
Lower.
And we feel
Yeah.
that. So you've got to ramp
Healing.
everything up. So hyperbaric oxygen helps you get into that hyper healing stage,
Yeah.
because you got to be more than just maintenance level in order to actually heal. So
Yeah.
anybody working through a healing journey, hyperbaric oxygen is great for that.
Great for that. Yeah. You live in Utah, right?
Yep.
So we went last Christmas to Park City to go skiing on a family trip. And everybody was like, you got to get the oxygen cans. You got to get the oxygen cans because of the elevation. So and that was my first time ever taking one of those. I was like, yeah, I noticed a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
are they
Yeah.
good? Yeah.
Yeah, but you can also just breathe, and that's free.
Could have saved the $5.
Exactly.
You mentioned coffee too. Are you really anti-coffee for being cell well?
So the problem is that coffee covers up the cell's signal. So it
Oh.
covers up the cell signal, because when we're decreasing in energy, our cells, this is what happens as we get toward nighttime. Okay. Our cells are saying, I'm running low. It's just like on your cell phone, the little indicator light at the top, you're getting down to 20%, 15%. Your cells are telling you that by showing you your lower energy levels. Make sense?
Yeah.
So if we feed ourselves caffeine, it duct tapes over that cell signal. It says, nope, that's not true. So we end up pushing past our energy reserves.
Yeah,
That makes
right.
sense?
Yes.
We end up doing more, even though our energy is way down here.
Yeah.
So I'm not opposed to caffeine, but I'm saying you're going to need to recharge your cells the right way, because the caffeine just covers over the cell symptom that it's struggling. So you end up
Right.
pushing past your reserves, and that's the crash.
That's
Where
the
you go, oh
crash.
my gosh, I feel terrible. Why? Because you used up more energy than you really had. Your tank
Yeah.
completely empty,
Yeah.
because you covered up that low gaslight signal that your body was
Yeah.
trying to tell you. So drink your coffee if you love it, but drink an electrolyte drink. Eat your apple.
In
eat
the
your
afternoon.
date.
Don't
do
take
that
your
along
coffee
with
in the
it, so you
morning
can
or
have the
afternoon.
energy
Yeah.
to push through.
Yeah.
So I don't drink coffee at all. People are like, shouldn't, because you have way too much energy as it is.
Right,
You know?
right.
It's
You don't need it.
food, though. That's the thing. That's where I get it from.
You get it from, yeah.
Recharge my cells every single day.
Yeah.
And that's
we do,
what allows us to.
yeah, we drink a mold-free organic coffee, and that's tested for mycotoxins. And anybody listening, I highly, if you're a coffee drinker, like coffee is very polluted with mold. So I highly recommend it. I get mine on Amazon. It's not that much more expensive, and little plug there for coffee drinkers. But this is so great. This is like so much information. I could talk to you for another hour, but I know you're
Yes.
busy and you run a practice and
Right.
you have to go. I guess last question is, Going back to the mercury poisoning and the fluoride, like what diseases do you see those being linked to, especially with kids? Do you believe in the autism connection? And would you say a lot of the neurological disorders?
So the interesting thing is exactly what I was talking about with the size of jaws. People will say, well, we've just had a genotype or a genetic change, and that's why we're seeing more autism. That's untrue. Because like I said, you will not see genetic changes that large in outside of 5 to 10 generations. This is increased in 1 to 2 generations.
Yeah.
So we know that this cannot be a genetic change, right? And that's your platform. This is toxin related. And in the book, actually, I believe it's chapter 2 or 3, I talk all about epigenetics and really I don't like the word dumb it down, but that's what I do. I really take it to consumer level to say, what the heck are epigenetics? And basically what it is every single cell in your body has the same DNA. Every single cell. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
But like your skin cells have the exact same DNA as your heart cells, exact same ones. So how do they know? Because every cell starts as it's called a stem cell. So it's like a brand new baby cell that doesn't have a job yet. How does that stem cell know I need to go be a skin cell or I need to go be a heart cell? How does it know? That's the epigenetics piece. What's happened is the location it's in is told its mama that you need to be a skin cell. So now there's marks on that DNA. I like to call them sticky notes or dog-eared pages. You know how you like fold back the page on a book? That's our little handwritten notes in the margins. So that DNA is like a recipe book inside of each cell. But because of experience that cell has had, whether it's where it's located or toxins it's been exposed to, there's new little handwritten notes in the margins. There's new sticky notes on it. And it's now read differently because of those marks. The DNA didn't change. So no, our DNA has not changed to lead to higher levels of autism. Something is marking our DNA and telling it to be read in a different way. And that's epigenetics. And that's all based on the environment we live in, the toxins we're exposed to, like you said, the Wi-Fi, the EMFs, like all of these things are making marks on our DNA. So now when our cells replicate, because every single cell remakes itself within a year's time, every single cell is new. So the body I see today will be a completely new body in a year from now.
Wow.
Completely new.
Wow.
So now the cool, amazing thing about that is we can change the epigenetics. We can change the marks on DNA. We can change the sticky notes. We can take them off by changing our environment. And that's all you. That's your talk. We can change that. We can't change the DNA, but we don't need to. The DNA didn't change. It's the sticky notes and the dog-eared and the notes on the next. That's what changed. And we can change that back based on changing our environment. So do I believe fluoride and mercury and those things can contribute? Absolutely, because they will change the way that your DNA is read. So if we get them out of our system, out of our communities, out of our bodies, can we change the way the DNA is read back to what it used to be?
Right. Powerful.
Our cells have the ability to be, wow, our cells have the ability.
Woo! What a great way to end the show. That was a great point. Oh my gosh, you're amazing. Well, thank you so much for being with us today, Dr. Michelle. Friends, you can learn more about her work at Living Well with Dr. Michelle, and that's DR. And we'll put the link to that and her new book in the show notes.
And friends, you can find those show notes at healthyhomehacks.com. And as always, we appreciate you. Be sure to review and rate our show. 5 stars are always appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed, consider this your healthy whisper. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Dr. Michelle.
Goodbye. Thank you.
This episode of the Healthy Home Hacks podcast has ended, but be sure to subscribe for more healthy living strategies and tactics to help you create the healthy home you've always dreamed of. And don't forget to rate and review so we can continue to bring you the best content. See you on the next episode.